Comics Coast to Coast is brought to you by patrons like you. If you'd like to help the show out, head on over to patreon.com/comicsc2c and show us a little bit of your love. Your sweet, sweet love. I mean, like $1 worth of love. And we'll take that love and hug it and squeeze it and make it do podcast things that you'll enjoy. So come on, see what happens.
This is Comics Coast to Coast.
Hey everybody, this is Brian Dunaway, and you're listening to Comics Coast to Coast, episode 323, a joke about words going forwards and backwards, the Bag of Comics episode. With me tonight is Matthew Descharme of Matt the Wad. Matt, how are you?
Hey there, just Andy, sir.
Excellent. You'll notice, if you look over to your right, there is no Joel Duggan. He is off tonight. He had some work to do. The chat room is here with us on twitch.tv. You can watch us live at twitch.tv. What is it? Twitch.tv/Brian Dunaway. The chat room is saying you're quiet, so I'm going to pump you up a little bit. Matt, how do you feel about that? You like being pumped up?
Pump me up. I like it.
Pumped up? All right, going to pump you up a little bit. Going to pump myself up a little bit. See if we can get a little better audio. He's low. Maybe they're just talking about how your ears hang. We'll see. We'll see. All right. So last week we had a great discussion. Had a guest. Everything. We talked about fan art, a topic which you brought up, Matt. And I really enjoyed that topic. It was a lot of fun. It was a good job. Thank you. Thank you very much.
Well, no problem.
Very good. This week, however, no guests, but we got some guests lined up for you very soon. I'm not going to read them here because not all of them have been solidly, etched in stone. So, but tonight, what we have for you is the Bag of Comics episode, kind of like when you go to the grocery store and you go to get, you see a comic book, but it's in a bag with like 3 more comic books, and you only can see the ones in the front and the back. And you're pretty sure you want that comic on the front. The one on the back is maybe, but the 3 or 4 comics in the middle, you're just unsure what's in there, right? You don't know what's in there. But the whole thing is like $5. So you go, is this a good deal? Of course it's not.
But you're dying to find out, so you get it anyway.
Right. Of course not. Of course it's a horrible deal. Because when you open it up, there's crap inside. It's like, what is this crap comic?
Comics that you've never heard of.
Right. Not that that's a bad thing. It's good if you haven't heard of a comic. However, I always get robbed with that because, like I said, front comic, best comic ever. Back comic, Middle comics, I never heard of these things. So
I
don't
know. Have you ever been satisfied by a grab bag experience?
Have I ever been? I'm going to say no, Matt. I'm going to say absolutely not. Every grab bag I've ever had is always a disappointment. And what's odd is I like the loot box stuff you get through the mail because that seems to be a fair trade. But usually, like you said, like the bags and stuff, most of the time it's disappointing. It's just out and disappointing. And I think the difference is stuff like Loot Crate, they are trying to get you to do it every month. Whereas Right. Grab bags are more like something you see at the jockey lot. That's right. I call it a jockey lot.
Yeah, well, I think the grab bags at like conventions and stuff, they're like, okay, how do we get rid of all this crap? Oh, I know. We'll just like mix it all in a huge pile and just take random stuff out of it. Put
Right.
it in grab bags.
Put in grab bags and give it away because we didn't want it. So that's what this episode's going to be like. There's going to be some really good stuff.
Way to upsell it there.
Right. There's going to be some really good stuff on the outside. But if you dig really deep, it's going to be poo. It's going to be
crap.
absolute poo. It's all crap. So, so let me get my show notes pulled up because I don't have my show notes pulled up yet. But I do want to talk about what we've been reading. And I'll, if it's okay with you,
Go right ahead.
I'll start. Okay. A few weeks back, if you know me, I like to get the deals. And on slickdeals.net, which is a place that I frequent often, there was a deal on some comics for like 80 cents that you could purchase digitally for your Kindle, which I have. And that's mostly how I read my comics is through my Kindle HD Fire. So they had a good deal. It's like 80 cents for, I think it was The Death of Captain Marvel was the one that, no, I'm sorry. It was the 1982 Marvel graphic novel, number 5, X-Men, God Loves, Man Kills. They wanted 80 cents for it. So I hopped on Amazon to see the deal. And underneath it was another deal that said, hey, wait. Tell you what, if you spend $3, you can get 4 comics, all from 1982, mostly Chris Claremont or Jim Starlin, and every one of them depressing as mud. So I was like, okay, I really want some old classic Marvel because, in the recent years, Marvel has retired a few characters. When I say retired, they made me kill them, like especially like Wolverine. I was like, no, you can't do it. But, it's just something they had to do. And we're going to talk a little bit more later about, Wolverine and where he's at now. But it made me remember that there was a time when we saw the death of Captain Marvel back in 1982. It was kind of a big deal for me because I was reading a lot of comics then, and I was reading Captain Marvel was one of the ones that I was kind of looking at. Wasn't hugely into, but I like to read it. And so this was the first comic that I was exposed to that really said heroes can die, not in a heroic manner, mind you, but just simply fade away and die. And spoiler, I don't think there's any spoiler because this is Marvel graphic novel number 1, The Death of Captain Marvel. I think you know what you're getting from 1982 with Jim Starlin. Captain Marvel, he succumbs to cancer. And it's this whole exploration of a superhero doing something very human and having to deal with getting sick and no longer able to do the things he wants to do, which is be a hero, and the people around him accepting the cancer he has. It's such a, cancer is such a, it's such a monster because it doesn't take someone, usually it doesn't take them right away. It's a slow degrade until it's your body just can't go on anymore, right? It's killer. It's the worst. And it's absolutely what you want in your comic book, right? It's absolutely what you want in your superhero stories. But I read through it again, and it was heavy-handed in parts, but I think they handled it pretty well. And they really showed us that superheroes could be human in a time when superheroes were becoming a thing again, but they didn't want to repeat the heroes of yesterday where heroes were just infallible, right? And indestructible. So really good read. If you head on over to Amazon and look for, I believe it's called Marvel Graphic Novel 1982. It's a 4-book series, and The Death of Captain Marvel is an amazing read. However, it is a little bit of a bummer. And I'll tell you something else too. Was in that the next bummer in that was the New Mutants. This was the origin story, the telling of how Xavier went out and got the New Mutants. This was a time when the X-Men were essentially dead. A lot of dead heroes in '82, and so he was trying to form a new team reluctantly, and he came across four mutants with powers, and every one of their backstories is just depressing as crap. Just depressing as this person has lost somebody. This person's getting bullied. This person tries to save his boss, and he oh my gosh, it's just one sad story after the other. Plus Xavier is dealing with the loss of his original students, and he's trying to deal with all this crap. And oh man, it's a tough read. And I also read in this set X-Men, God Loves, Man Kills. It's where what is his name? I mean, he's such a big bad guy now in the X-Men series. Oh, what is this stupid name? I'm drawing a blank on his name. He's the evangelical guy that goes against the X-Men and convinces his following to turn against the mutants in the world, because he says they're an abomination to God. And so it's just this really tough look at of persecution of the mutants. The only one I haven't read in this series so far is the Marvel graphic novel number 12, which is just the adaptation of the Dazzler the movie. I haven't read it. I don't know if the characters will be suffering some kind of major life upheaval, but I think probably the saddest part is probably just the fact that it's Dazzler the movie. I think that's going to be the saddest part. But I've really been enjoying that set for $3, and just all the sadness you can suffer through. By the way, chat room, I want to apologize. Apparently my internet connection is poo, and they're getting a lot of buffering. I am recording this locally, and I'll be rebroadcasting this afterwards. Hopefully it'll clear up maybe here very shortly. Had all kinds of difficulties, but it's all good, right, Matt? So Matt,
yes,
I'm done. That's what I've been reading.
That was quick. Well,
yeah, go ahead.
Oddly enough, I've been reading more comics lately than I typically do.
Interesting.
What it is I was looking for something to do. Every night you go to bed, you have your get ready for bed routine, right?
Right.
Usually for guys, it's like 5 minutes, brush your teeth, maybe go to the bathroom real quick, and then hop in bed, and there you go, you're done. But the thing is, my wife, she has this ritual. It takes like half an hour.
Right.
So a lot of times I'm just sitting in bed waiting for her to come in so we can watch a movie or something. So I'm like, you know what? What can I do? I got it. I'll look at some graphic novels. I have Comixology on my Samsung tablet. I'm like, I'll just look those up. And I happened to come across a great little NPR article / website where they have the 100 best 100 best graphic novels and comics.
Oh wow, that's a lot.
I put a link in the show notes, right, so our listeners can look it up as well. So I've been just starting at the top. I don't think they put them at 100, but I've just been starting at the top, and whatever I can find off of Comixology, I've been reading it.
Right.
So I started with this one called Nimona.
Nimona.
Oh, you read this? Or
no. I'm trying to imagine the spelling, because I have Nimona.
Nimona.
Oh.
And it's kind of a cartoony sort of looking story, but it's kind of fantasy / sci-fi. and it's got kind of a cool look and it's got a look that could lend itself very well to animation. And it features a main character who is capable of shapeshifting.
Ooh.
So that's kind of a cool thing. That was the first thing I read. The second one is called Day Tripper. And this is much more one of those, it could easily be made into a film.
Right.
It's like a slice of life. Or it's looking at this one guy's life in slices. The guy's basically...
It's literally slices of life.
And the guy is, his occupation is, he writes obituaries. And so it's got this interesting thing where at the end of each segment of life story that he tells, it tells a little story about his childhood. Like at the end of each story, he dies. And there's a little obituary. But then, it's interesting. You gotta read it. It's not for everyone. It's not a superhero story. It's much more of like a drama with like a interesting edge to it. But I highly recommend it. The artwork is beautiful. So that's worth a check out. But I will finish with the series that I recently finished called Sweet Tooth.
Ooh.
And this one I almost skipped out on because you'll see when you go to the website that has the NPR article, they have little thumbnails of the covers of each of the books so that you can know what they look like. And this one, I looked at the cover, I'm like, that looks like someone from high school drew it, like right out of someone's, notebook. They were drawing the comic when they should have been listening in math class. That sort of thing.
Right.
And there would, in that same notebook would be that, edgy S that everyone likes drawing in high school.
Yes. I love the edgy S.
I don't even know what it's called, but...
Right. I know what you're talking about, though. It's got all this. It's almost like a diamond shape, and it's got the little lines in the center.
Yep.
Yeah,
Everyone knows it. Everyone knows it. It's like a rite of passage to draw that thing. So anyway, it looks like someone who drew that, drew the comic. Very scratchy, kind of amateurish looking. So I almost skipped out on it. But I'm like, you know what? I'll try it out. And I actually found that, I should have known better. The story is what makes a comic great. To have nice artwork is a bonus, but what's interesting is, as I got deeper into the story, I found that the art actually helped the atmosphere of the story. Like, I don't know if it would have been as gripping if it had been, all highly polished and really, nicely rendered. And the gist of that story in the short term is basically it's a post-apocalyptic tale, and right around the time that a sickness hits the human population, these children start being born that are half animal.
What?
It's really weird. So you have this, post-apocalyptic, everyone's dead, and then like the main character is this half deer, half boy, and it's just it's pretty crazy. It's dark and it's grim. There's an innocence to the character, and it's worth a read. Don't let the artwork push you away. Once you get past it, it's a good story. So anyway, those are the things I've...
So you got this off, Let's Get Graphic, 100 Favorite Comics and Graphics Novels that came out of NPR this last July 2017. So are you purchasing these one at a time as you go along, or is there like a bundle or anything that you're kind of picking up, or are you using a service?
Just buying them one at a time. As I finish one, I'll look at the next and see, because they don't have everything. I'll search for whatever the next thing is that they have on the list on Comixology.
Right.
And, I'll check out the price and, when it makes sense, I buy it.
Right. I actually think I picked up Through the Woods. That's like number 5 or 6 down the list. So maybe once you get to that one, maybe we'll have to read along together.
I
noticed,
I looked for that one just the other day on there.
Right?
I don't know if they removed it or if it's on a different service. Did you read it on your tablet?
I want to say I have it on the Kindle. I'll have to look to verify, but I'm pretty sure I have that one. That title and the cover looks really familiar. I noticed it skipped a few in the list.
Yeah.
I noticed you started with Nimona, or however you say it, and then Watchmen, which you've probably read like 6,000 times, probably.
Read Watchmen?
Right, and then Mouse, A Survivor's
I
Tale.
noticed they didn't seem to have that one on Comixology. Maybe I just
really
didn't search for it correctly. I don't know.
Right.
I couldn't find that one.
And then the award-winning This One Summer.
Yeah, again, another one I looked for but couldn't find.
Right. And then I'm right. You're right. That Sweet Tooth looks kind of, I don't know how to explain it. You're right. But your description of it was spot on. And then next up is Through the Woods and Blankets. And I might join in with you to kind of read those. I'm pretty much through with except for the Dazzler movie, I'm pretty much caught up in what I was reading. Oh, they got Black Sad. It's a French comic. We've talked about Black Sad before. Who did we talk to?
I think it's come up. Yeah.
We've talked to some. We've interviewed somebody who I can't remember who it was now. We interviewed not that long ago. We interviewed someone, and that was one that came up. Let me see. Okay, so cool. That's great. So that's what we've been reading. By the way, the Twitch chat room has kind of fell to the side. Don't know what's going on with my internet connection. I'm working on it. This is our third live broadcast. Kind of stumbling a little bit here, but that's okay because we're going to learn from it and we're going to move on and we're going to get better. Let's move on to some news. I mentioned at the top, that losing some of these characters in your comics as you're growing up can be kind of a change, a traumatic change, especially if it's somebody you really followed for a really long time. And I remember when they started doing the Logan series and really were putting Wolverine to bed, it was quite upsetting for me. I was like, well, I wouldn't say quite upsetting, but it was definitely a bummer. How's that? I was bummed.
Works for me.
Yeah, right. So this, according to a article on Bleeding Cool. No, I'm sorry. No, this is straight from Marvel.com. They announced The Hunt for Wolverine expands into 4 different series. Now, I haven't been following all of the Hunt for Wolverine storyline, but we're going to find out. According to this article here on Marvel, is Logan truly back? This May, the hunt continues across the Marvel Universe. Wolverine is back, or so it seems. Ever since Marvel Legacy #1, we can talk about that just in a minute, we've gotten glimpses of what appears to be Wolverine popping up across the Marvel Universe. But is it really Logan? So that's some good questions. That's what we're all asking. Marvel Legacy is something Marvel has decided to do because, in recent years, they've killed some long-running comic series like the Fantastic Four. They really ended Wolverine proper, and so they've let some of those characters lapse, and now I guess they're bringing in this universe of Marvel Legacy. I haven't read any of it yet. I haven't read it. I just kind of know about its existence and the fact that they're trying to bring some of those heroes back in an isolated area, kind of like a little sandbox area, to see if there's interest, and then they'll probably push that out into the rest of the Marvel universe. The article continues on Marvel. For a character with as rich a history as Wolverine, even though he sometimes couldn't remember it all himself, telling the tale of this potential return can't be contained to just one series. Shut up. Sure it can. In April, The Hunt for Wolverine #1 one-shot will be released. So I'm pretty excited about April getting here. And then in May, 4 different 4-part series will debut that will continue the story as Wolverine's past comes back to haunt many a mutant. Each story will harken back to an old school adventure. I remember Marvel used to do this a lot. 4-part series. That was their jam, right? Do you remember when Marvel was doing that a lot? It seemed like everything was a 4-part, right? Is that a sore spot for you, Matt? It's
no. It's just I don't know much about it.
Right. And whenever they did these 4-part series, they always did 4-part series of another series of characters, and you'd have to cross by. So talk about a comic bag. What a bunch of crap. But no, I'm excited because I'm excited to see where they're going to go with Wolverine. Do you think, just in my heart of hearts, we've seen so many characters brought back from the dead, and there's a couple of ways to handle it. Either you just bring them back and go, nah, it was all a dream. or Xavier was out with the Starjammers cruising the galaxy. He's back now. He's psych. And there's just many different creative ways of saying, oh, the character is back. And one of the ways that I hope they don't do is it just makes sense with the storyline, though, because there's so much genetic alterations and genetic testing within that storyline of Wolverine that they're gonna bring back a clone or something and just go, okay, this isn't really the Logan you loved. It's a clone. I hope, for me personally, I hope they don't go that route. Is there a route that you would prefer to see Wolverine come back or not prefer, Matt? Or do you even care about Wolverine?
I do, but unfortunately, I'm someone who is probably reviled by the comic community in the way that I only know about X-Men primarily from the movies.
Right.
So feel free to throw some, Rotten Tomatoes at me or whatever. But
hey, in the chat room, it seems like we've stabled out a little bit. Incredible Sausage says, quote, I don't know why he's quoting here. Maybe he read somewhere else, or maybe he's just quoting himself. The real one didn't die. That was a clone. Son of a... Don't do that to me. That's just as bad. That's just as douchey. Cloning stuff. I hate that crap. But yeah, hopefully they'll handle it well. I'm excited to see Wolverine return and to be strong and not... I enjoyed the Logan series where, Wolverine was dealing with the fact that he was getting old and he wasn't as tough as he used to be. But I'm ready for an OP Wolverine to return. Okay? I'm ready for that. So the first of the 4 series is going to be Hunt for Wolverine, Weapon Lost, written by Charles Soule, art by Matteo Bufungi, and I'm not going to read none of the rest of these people because I just realized how poorly I'm going to say this. I'm going to go for it. Hunt for Wolverine, Adamantium Agenda. Am I saying that right? Adamantium. Written by Tom Taylor, art by R.B. Silva. Hunt for Wolverine, Claws of a Killer. Written by Mariko Tamiki, art by Butch. It looks like Juice, but it's with a G. Juice. Goose? I don't know. Hunt for Wolverine Mystery and Madripoor. Written by Jim Zub. Art by Chris Bacalo. So head on over to Marvel.com, and in their news section, you can read all about it. And so I'm pretty excited. But said series editor Mark Panacea, I think that's correct, I've been holding my tongue, just waiting to announce this project and team of ultra-talented creators. While these stories are all reveal clues to the larger mystery behind Wolverine's return, the writers all have some pretty huge moments planned that will have X-Men fans talking and debating for some time to come. We're going to see. I'm excited about that. And that's all I got to talk about the Wolverine there. I'm done with the Wolverine because there's something they're going over at DC right now.
Do tell.
That according to a Bleeding Cool article, yesterday Mean-spirited tweets against company policy, DC Comics social media and press guidelines for comic creators. So there was some issues with some of the creators, I suppose, doing mean-spirited social media. And so they've had to draw up some guidelines. No brainer. So yesterday, according to this article, which was a couple days old from 2/13, right before Valentine's Day, yesterday DC Comics creative freelancers received a mass email covering their activities on social media. While I understand that this kind of thing has been an increasing concern in recent years, I understand that the happening right now is a result of the actions of internal company employee reactions and concerns reported by Bleeding Cool over artist Ethan Van Shiver's social media activity. I haven't been following this, so I need to check it out. Concern has been expressed from the top, from President Diane Nelson down to fellow freelance creators. DC Comics social media Twitter tweets it. What is that? Tweets it. Also, it is also time to preempt an upcoming BuzzFeed article on the matter. So, BuzzFeed. Wow. And some of the language used appears to be a direct reaction to our earlier article. We also know that the don't talk to the press's aspect. So on this Bleeding Cool article, they actually have the full email that was sent out according to what they're saying over Bleeding Cool. You know what? I love Bleeding Cool, but also sometimes they get a little antsy with getting the news out there. And so it is bleeding, right? It's Bleeding Cool. So maybe all of this is nothing but the truth and the whole truth, but it's certainly going to. You know what, Matt? How do you feel about artists being outspoken on their social media sites, where they also share their artwork that is basically, represents a company like DC? Is that, do you kind of have to like stuff that when you're working for a place like DC? Do you have to kind of like, socially speaking?
Yeah, that's a good question. I mean, there's a part of me that says, look, if it's a Twitter in their own name, that's their name. They were who they were before they started working for you. They should be able to say whatever they want. And then I feel like, DC should just be like, well, that doesn't, they said this, but that doesn't represent our view, whatever. But,
right.
Then again, the artists should have, at least a little bit of common sense that if you're working for such a big place like that, they're going to be pretty sensitive.
Right.
And so you should be aware when you're crafting your tweets that, would my employer look favorably on this?
Right. It's almost like being a sports star, because if you're a player on a particular professional team, and and your big presence online is primarily being a part of that team, anything you say is kind of expected to be what the team believes, right? It's kind of like if you've married into that whole relationship. It's what you're known for. And so it can hurt the brand because you are a part of that brand. And it's a real tricky balancing act, because you don't want to say, oh, I'm going to stifle your freedom of speech. However, while you're working with us and you're representing the brand in your public persona, because especially in sports, it's not only about being able to do the activity. It's also about being a presence online, or not necessarily online, but in the media and to the public. So it's a tough question. I get it. Even Twitch is having to address this. Twitch TV, which we're broadcasting on live right now, has taken a stronger stance on banning content creators or shutting down content creators that are being aggressive on other forms of social media. So like, let's say I'm on Twitter and I'm being aggressive towards someone and it has nothing to do with Twitch. I'm just being a total dick, and which happens. and then a person complains back on Twitch, and since I have a presence there, they can, they can choose to part ways with me and just go, no, no, thank you, Brian. We're done with you. So it's an interesting discussion that I don't know if we fully qualify for the discussion, but certainly it's worth thinking about, right?
This could actually be a good future topic.
I agree. We should get somebody. We should get somebody up in the higher up who has to deal with the social marketing of a brand and kind of get their take. Because we're content creators. We're like, I want to be creative. You can't stifle me. We need right.
But me being an illustrator and animator for 20 years,
right?
I don't have that artist mentality of like, oh, let me be creative and shut up and leave me alone and all that. Like I've been in the business long enough to realize that it is a business.
Right.
So I think you express yourself, but you always, before you express yourself in public, you think, okay, is this something that I would want a lot of people to see? And would my client like to be associated with something like this?
Right. Yeah, it's true. It's all interrelated. I mean, when you agree to be part of a creative team, you're agreeing to be part of, something bigger than your own personal views. Doesn't mean you have to give away your personal views, but maybe you have to consider that your personal views can't be shoved down someone else's throat, right?
Right.
You can't shove them down people's throat. You can recommend them and suggest them. You don't have to give them up. But I think it's a really interesting topic, and I would love to get a handler. It's somebody at the top who goes, "Yeah, let me tell you how I deal with these creative types." I'd love to do that. That would be fun.
I think we could even just get anyone involved more in the business side of.
Right.
Well, I don't think it necessarily has to be someone from marketing.
Right.
But,
right.
Yeah,
you're right. Don't have to be marketing. You're right. I just think marketing guys are like the opposite of the creative guys. It's just like, here's the creative guy. And it's not true, because marketing can be very creative. It's just that I think marketing is totally focused on sales, where creatives are more focused on, it's like, oh, we got to create something meaningful, right? I don't know. I think it's interesting. So we'll shelve that one. We'll talk about that one later. All right. So I probably should have read this next part, because this next part is also about a comic story that is ending. And if I remember correctly, I think you've mentioned that you're a fan of this.
I am a big fan of it, so go ahead and tell the news.
Okay, so here's the news. If you haven't heard, head on over to our good friends, majorspoilers.com. Those guys are great. They're part of the Frog Pants Network, just like we are. They've got their own network too, but they're sister love. They're all in there with us. This article reads, Elfquest to end with Elfquest, the final quest, number 24. So, according to this article, all good things must come to an end today. This is a couple days ago. Dark Horse Comics is both proud and sad to announce the end of Elfquest, the final quest. After 40 years of genre-bending and award-winning content, Wendy and Richard Penny, is that right?
Penny, I think. Yeah.
All right. Are stepping away from their beloved series to take a well-deserved break. Yeah, 40 years, heck yeah. And to focus on other projects and ventures. So how simple, so it continues, how simple, like the closing of a door, a 40-year-old labor of love comes to the conclusion we ordained so long ago, explains artist Wendy Penny. Richard and I can barely express our joy at the love we receive from fans around the world. We return that love and look forward to our continued association with Dark Horse. So they're going to continue doing some stuff, hopefully. Nothing's more fun for us than being the guiding hands behind others' creators' interpretations of the elves. Kind of sounds like they're maybe thinking, maybe they're kind of handing it off, maybe taking a lesser role.
They kind of already did. I mean,
right.
I actually only really like the original, the first 4 books of the series, the original quest.
Right.
After that, they had a couple others with her original art. and the team of Wendy and Richard Penny. But then after those, they started handing it off to other artists. And I found that along with that, the story kind of got more fractured and more kind of soap opera-ish and all over the place, which of course I've said in the past I don't like that kind of storytelling.
Right.
You know, give me a complete story. And so I haven't followed it really in years. So I don't know. For me, it was already done a while ago, but I'll be curious to see what they move on to.
Right. I mean, I'd hate to see the franchise as it is to be retired, but different creators have different thoughts on how they, do they end a series when they end, or do they allow it to keep going? And there's value to both. And I like the story. I think I like the world they've built. I think there is a big enough world that certainly they could have other artists come in and explore some things that we maybe never thought about. But I'm with you. I haven't read Elfquest in many years, and this might be partially, the reason why they're ending this. I don't know the popularity of it currently, but after 40 years, man, 40 years, jeez, that's a long time to create anything, right?
Oh yeah,
yeah, that's tough. But gonna hate to see that go, even though I haven't read it recently. But just knowing it's not there makes me sad. Makes me really sad inside. So that's that. So good luck to Elfquest and all those who've worked on it over the years. And also, definitely good luck to Wendy and Richard as they go on to focus on some other projects and ventures after 40 years. Yeah, they deserve it. They deserve whatever they can deserve to do what they want to do. Go do something. Go do nothing. Who cares? All right. Another article. Last article before we talk just briefly about that new Pixar movie that's coming out very shortly that was just premiered at the Winter Olympics. Web Comics Web Archive. I wouldn't necessarily say this is a bleeding edge news article because it's something that I've known about for a while and I was just reminded about it. And I kind of want to talk about it to see if it still has any life. But Web Comics Web Archive. So, a while back, back in 2014, and then a refocus in 2017, the Library of Congress started a collection to archive webcomics. So, starting a collection period starting back in June 4th, 2014 to ongoing. And I question the ongoing part because I don't see as much content recently. And maybe I'm not looking in the right place. Maybe I'm not looking at it properly. But according to the website, the collection focuses on comics created specifically for the web and supplements the Library of Congress's extensive holdings in both comic books, graphic novels, and original comic art. Web comics are an increasingly popular format utilized by contemporary creators in the field and often include material by artists not available elsewhere. So web comics selected for this collection include award-winning comics, Eisner Awards, Harvey Awards, Eagle Awards, and the Schuster Awards, as well as webcomics that have significance in the field due to longevity, reputation. Reputation would be a good reason to be in here also. like Garfield hates Mondays. And subject matter. This collection includes works by artists and subjects not traditionally represented in mainstream comics, including women artists, which are becoming much more in the mainstream, and characters, artists, and characters of color, LGBTQ+. I know what the first couple of letters that is, and then it starts. I don't even know what the rest of that is. Artists and characters, all inclusive apparently, as well as subjects such as politics, which we all love, health and human sexuality, and autobiography. The content of these websites is captured as it was originally produced and may include content that is not suitable for all ages. If you've ever been to archive.org, the archive of this, the Library of Congress, is very similar. You can click on the links inside there, and it will literally take you to a layout, a timeline of this comic that you're looking at, and all the ones I've seen so far have been from their catalog from August the 8th to August 2014 to 2016. So I said all that to get to the point that I'm curious of how well this is being curated at this point. It was definitely had a strong start, but is it being curated currently, and are they planning on updating it? And are webcomics even really a unified thing now? I mean, it seems like art and comics are being created in such a and mostly distributed in such a social media form that is much more fleeting than webcomics of the past. Webcomics in the past were easy to archive because most artists had their own website, and it could be easily archived like you would do with something like archive.org, as opposed to something that's a little bit more transient like social media. How are they going to archive this? I don't know. Matt, are you even aware of this existence?
This is the first I've heard of it, but I am intrigued.
Right.
I'll have to check it out at a later time. But yeah, it is an interesting thing. How do you record the history of the internet? Something that's so constantly shifting.
Right.
That's obviously a problem that people are going to have to work out. I'm glad I don't have to do it.
Right. Yeah, like I said, archive.org did great, and you can go see many websites that I ran and created content for from 1998 on forward. But around in the last couple of years, the content that I've been really pushing has been less and less about putting it on my own website, which was easily cataloged and put into archive.org. Now you're dealing with content that is curated by large third parties like Facebook and Twitter, and they have their own ways of archiving that data. And I'm sure they've got their own rules of how people can get to that information. So is this Library of Congress thing on webcomics that I just discovered myself just in the past year, is it already dead? I don't know. If you're out there and you know anything about the webcomics web archive, I've Googled a little bit. I can't find really any good information. I have no contacts there. I guess I could send an email to these people, but I don't like emailing people. Do you like emailing people, Matt?
Not particularly.
Right. And as proof to our listeners who never email us, even though we have an email, which is so easy, I'm going to make it even easier. Contact us. You have questions. You have answers. Comics C2C at gmail.com. That is comics C, the number 2, C at Gmail. Send us some email. Right? What's that?
Maybe you should put on your mom voice before you guilt our listeners. You never email us anymore.
You never
Don't you love us anymore?
At least we have the chat room. At least Tondagosa is here hanging out with us, even though I've had internet problems. Wicked Kitten, she ran away as soon as the internet started getting flaky. Incredible Sausage showed up later. I don't know if he had experienced the horribleness that was the internet connectivity, but he stuck around anyway. Thank you guys in the chat room. I appreciate it. If you have friends and want to invite them on into the Comics Coast to Coast chat room, that'd be great. By the way, we have a Discord channel. I'm going to post that somewhere. Maybe at the end of the show. I don't know. Anyway, we got a great Discord channel starting to grow. We have this Twitch, which is growing. Really enjoying it. We're about ready to start doing our big interviews for the year. We have great guests lined up. I don't want to, like I said, I can't really talk about them just yet because we haven't 100% nailed down the times and dates. But we're certainly getting there. Before we head out the door, I just want to say, just for a second, I don't know how I feel about the Incredibles 2 trailer that just premiered on the Winter Olympics. How do you have opinions on it, Matt? Have you seen the trailer?
I'm kind of withholding, but I can definitely say they went in a different direction than I was imagining when I knew they were going to do a second one. I thought, okay, we're going to see them like 10 years later. Maybe the kids are all grown up, and it'd be interesting to see that. Make it more about the kids as young adults. But then, no, they decided to have it start up almost immediately from the end of the last one. So, I think I'm okay with that, though.
Right. What a payoff, though. I was shocked because I was like, I recognize that character, the bad guy in this, and I'm like, why do I recognize this character? Because he wasn't in the last movie, and I'm like, wait a minute, yes, he was. Literally in the
last shot.
Shot of the last seconds of the first Incredibles, they give us our bad guy that's going to be in part 2, which, how many years has it been since Incredibles, the first one? It's been,
I don't know, it's been a while.
10 or more? It's been at least 10, if not more, right? And so, yeah, I was totally blown away. By the way, spoiler, if you haven't seen the trailer, it looks like Mr. Incredible is going to be Mr. Mom. So it's basically what it is. He's a superhero. He's too big, and he's the pacifier. He's the typical comedy of a large masculine man taking care of children and literally being beaten by them while his wife goes out and finally gets a chance to pursue. Because in the first one we saw him, it was all about Mr. Incredible. He had his own office. He was, it's all about me. And, he really wanted to get back out there, and his family had to come save him. And this time it's flipped, right? So I'm interested. I'm interested, and I'm just not sure. Has it been too long?
The first one was 2004.
Wow. So
14 years ago.
14 years. That is outrageous.
Longer than I thought.
Right. If you have a few more spoilers, just real quick spoilers from the trailer. I try not to do this too often, but I mean, it's Incredibles 2. What can they really spoil?
And it's a trailer.
This is some of the information that was dug out from watching the trailer from these nerds over at USA Today. I can't believe I would even call them nerds, but at least one of their writers over at USA Today had some. He said, "Hey, this is everything we know about The Incredibles 2, mostly based on what they saw in the trailer. Jack has many more powers than we realized. At the end of The Incredibles, we learned that the youngest Parr family member has many skills, including the ability to shapeshift and turn into fire, but his powers clearly don't end there." In the Incredibles 2 clip shared at D23, fans learned that Jack has elastic skin, gross, can shoot laser beams out of his eyes, is able to walk through walls, and can multiply at will. That is definitely going to be some comedy with Mr. Incredible trying to deal with the multiple babies. So, and the baby uses all these powers in a fight with a raccoon. So, I don't want to give all these away, but let's just say I like watching trailers and then going and having other people dissect them for me. All the stuff I missed. It's a lot of fun for me. It ruins the movie, but what you gonna do? The movie's already ruined for me anyway. It's 14 years. You waited too long. All right. So, Matt, that's it. We're done.
Wow.
We made a show.
Wow. How about that?
I enjoyed.
Not quite the turd that we were afraid of.
No, it turns out we thought it was going to be a bag of comics, like when you get at the store for $5 when you see the good comic on the front, the mediocre comic on the back, and then there's like 3 comics that you can't tell what's in it. Even though no matter how hard you dig, you just can't quite see what's in there. I can guarantee you it's crap. This ended up being good all the way through. It was a nice surprise. Matt, thank you so much for being on the show with me tonight. Matt, where can people visit you?
Best place to find my work is just to go to YouTube and do a search for Matt the Wad or my full name, Matthew Ducharme.
Excellent. You can follow me on Twitter at @TheBrianDunaway. I also have a YouTube channel, and I post Comics Coast to Coast episodes on there. Yeah, I do. And you can get to YouTube and then search for Brian Dunaway, and I'm right in there at the top. So do that. Also follow us on Twitter, our whole group at Comics C2C. for comic news and when we're broadcasting. By the way, we've been doing this every week on twitch.tv/Brian Dunaway every Thursday night at 7 p.m. Eastern. If you'd like to join in the chat room, come on over, stop on by. It's always a lot of fun. What else? If you want to support the show, head on over to patreon.com/comics C2C. We could really use your sweet, sweet loving. We really could. And don't forget Joel Duggan. You can follow him on Twitter. He's great. He just started back up his comic, StarCrossedOnline.com. Check it out. I know he's at least done one. I enjoyed it. I'm very proud of him. I'm very proud. And a little bit jelly. Is that okay? Can I say saying jelly? Okay. And that's it. So we'll see you guys next week.
Show is part of the Frog Pants Network. Get more at frogpants.com.
So, very excited about that. Matt?
Yes.
Thank you so much for being with me, man. It was awesome.
Well, thank you, sir.
We had a good time, didn't we?
We sure did.
You better believe it. You better believe it. All right, that's it. I'm going to go inside now in the house, out of the office, and put my toes under a blanket. Like
nice.
I do. Chat room, thank you so much. Twitch, we'll catch you guys later. Boop. And now stopping the stream and